Welcome to the channel Trilicus. I'm your host, W.A. Blinko. This channel is centred around science fiction, and I hope that we'll be able to discuss the latest Marvel films that are coming out, the latest DC films, anything really that's science fiction, games, books, TV, anything goes. I'll also be launching my own science fiction stories, and I've got one today that I'd like to read to you as it's National Book Day. This is just a short story set in the future where mankind has colonised other planets and is in the process of setting up a government system for those planets. Earth has been wiped out, so there's no going back, and everybody's going to have to learn to get on. However, it's not just us that are out there, there's these little alien things as well, and they're not very pleasant. So this book is, or the short story is titled Accet, and I shall begin reading it to you. Brown dust clouds rose from the parched land. Cannons thundered from a distance. The battle was reaching its climax. Only a few had survived the war. The king's enemy had forced him into a corner. He would either kill them and be victorious, or he would die defending his crown. Fully armed, the king continued to bark out commands to his loyal guards, the last remnants of his once mighty army. Only the knowledge that the enemy was equally low in numbers kept morale high enough for them to continue fighting, as winning was still possible. A scout returned, covered in mud and soaking wet. She paused before bowing to the king. "Get up. We are on the battlefield, and I have told you we are equals here." "Sorry, my lord." She got up. "They're heading for the palace." "Let them have it," the king interrupted. "But my lord, they will take the Star of Governance," the scout pleaded. The king had a broad smile on his face while fumbling with a chain around his neck. With a flick of his wrist, a silver cube approximately an inch across, with an emerald on each face, rolled out. The scout gasped, looking at the crisscrosses and engravings on the cube. "It's true. It's really true." "Yes, it is," the king confirmed. Often thought as an urban legend, much like ravens at the Tower of London, where if they were to leave, England would fall, the Star of Governance had its own legend attached. The scout recalled the stories. If it left the palace, all human life on Accet would be destroyed. Only the monarch could remove it, but until now that had never been done. "What now, my lord?" asked the scout, doing her best not to bow. "I need to find my daughter, if she is still alive." "The path to the refuge camp is clear, sire," replied one of the guards. The king beckoned his guards to gather around him closely. 20 men and 15 women. The enemy had taken his bait by attacking the palace. The king would have time to find his daughter and activate the secret of the Star of Governance. But the automated defences of the palace would only give them a short window. Holding the Star of Governance aloft for all to see, the king began to explain his plan. "We have only one chance to win this. Only I can activate the star's power. What we need is at the refugee camp. Any questions?" The king surveyed every face. Some looked scared, others enraged. Not one of them questioned him. Tucking the chain back under his shirt, he gave the order to move out. Glancing back at the palace, the scout watched as figures resembling ants scaled the walls. The automated weapons started to fire, but they had little effect. Slowly the group moved away under the cover of dusk. After 20 minutes of marching, the refugee camp came into sight. Nobody needed to be told to speed up. It was just a natural reaction. As the party began to look for loved ones at the camp, a guard approached, only to check their identities, stopping as soon as he noticed the king. "I would bow to you, sir, but I know you don't approve in times like this." "My daughter, where is she? Is she safe?" replied the king. "Yes, Dina is safe, and and is with the medics. Lead the way. The king stopped to talk to his personal guards. Each one listened tentatively, digesting every word. Find your loved ones. Support them, and then go to the perimeter. Backup will soon be here. Without any questions, the group went in different directions. The medical tent was in the centre of the camp. A dozen bodies greeted them, covered with blankets. We need to bury these brave souls. The guard grunted in agreement. The medical tent was split into different sections. After checking 6 wards, the king entered the urgent care unit. Dina, thank God you are safe. Dina leapt to her father's arms. Grime and blood covered her uniform, but the king cared not. Allowing himself to forget about the war for a second, he gripped his daughter tightly. She was safe. All he had to do now was keep it that way. Ouch, what's this? Asked Dina, patting the king's chest. This will save us, he replied, revealing the Star of Governance. But Dad, you always told me this was to remain in the palace. It is until our darkest hour, and if this alien invasion is not our darkest hour, then I do not know what is. Dina cupped the pendant in her hands, looking longingly at her father. How does it work? I need to get to the command centre in this camp to activate it. Dina looked puzzled. Why didn't her father just activate it in the palace? If it could do so much, why was it here in the camp? She followed her father out of the medical tent. He was clearly lost, so she took his hand and led him to the command centre. The command centre was built out of 5 converted articulated trailers. Approaching the first, the king placed his hand on the palm reader. The glass glowed, and with a hiss the doors opened. Gunfire began to ring out. The enemy must have started to approach the refugee camp. We need to hurry, the king said, making sure the door closed behind them. Nobody greeted them, as the crew were too busy organising the defences. Dina knew what way to go, so she led the way. Red lights flashed above their heads, indicating the immediate danger. The sign was hard to read in the light, however. The king recognised the humming of the computers and the tone of the staff. He was now where he needed to be. The light from the different screens brightening the room, the king walked up to the central terminal and held it with both hands. The room lights changed to green. His hands glowed as the scanners read his palms simultaneously. Everybody stopped what they were doing to look at the king. Gas escaped where the terminal split in half. The top half began to lift and retract into the ceiling. An automated message appeared across every screen. The Defence Corps has been contacted and are en route. Is that it? Asked Dina. No, replied the king, taking out the Star of Governance. Dina couldn't help but stare at what her father was doing. In this room are my most loyal and trusted council members. The star is a biometric data cube genetically linked to every member of our family. What it does is up to who inherits it. Sorry. Dina was clearly confused, watching as the Star of Governance was placed into a recess. One of the emeralds changed colour to red. Before moving by itself, the crowd watched, fixated. It was like watching a Rubik's Cube solving itself. Finally, it stopped moving. The red emerald now looked like a button. The king paused before pressing it. Everybody out! You'll want to see this, shouted. You want to see this? Shouted one of the crowd. The room brightened up as all the doors flung open. Dina stayed close to her father. The night sky was awash with flashes. Dina's eyes fixed onto the royal palace. Flames and smoke engulfed the majestic building. A couple of seconds later, it vanished in a ball of fire. That was why her father needed to get the Star of Governance out of the palace. He had chosen to use it to self-destruct it, wiping everything out. The king looked down at Dina. You all need to lead our people. Why? Where are you going, Dad? I'm only 17. With a shrill, a ship appeared overhead, and a spotlight glared down at them. Dina recognised the ship as a Defence Council transporter. Nearby tents shuddered vigorously from the downdraft of the engines as the transporter descended. 3 steel legs that the ship would depend on for a safe landing stretched out. Taking a moment for the landing area to clear, an automated voice echoed around them. This is Officer Scott. Lay down your weapons. We are assisting you as requested. The announcement was continuously repeated until the ship landed. Pulling Dina closer to him, the king spoke to her for the last time. The Defence Corps only agreed to help if I surrendered to them. The Royalists have agreed to stand down. You will need to change your name. But Dad, what's going on? Dina began to feel betrayed. Victory was being snatched away. Dad, what will happen to you? Change your name. Go into hiding until the time is right. The king paused, then pushed Dina away as his guards surrounded him. Dina stood clutching the Star of Governance, watching helplessly as her father walked to his waiting captors. She couldn't bear it any longer, dropping to her knees, tears streaming down her face, unable to make sense of her father's surrender. Looking up with tearful eyes, she followed the ship with ease. It lifted off the ground and headed to space. The king was unhandcuffed and placed in a cell, knowing he had done the right thing. It wasn't long after leaving Accet he got his first visitor. A tall man dressed in a black robe approached, then entered the cell. The king ignored the stranger until it kicked his legs. Sit up, a calm voice ordered. Ears pricked, the king sat up. Who are you? He grumbled. My name is not important, but your next answer will be. Will you join us? The king sat thinking of his options. Join the stranger for what? Slowly he began to remember a similar offer. Could this stranger be repeating that same deal? Was he seriously being asked once again to join the Elder Council? This stranger's appearance matched that of the others who had asked him in the past. Knowing that to refuse this time would almost certainly be a death sentence, the king stood up. Yes, I will join the Elder Council. A wise decision. Now change your clothes. Your first session will start when we are docked. The crowd around Dina bowed before her. A voice called out for her to choose her new name. Others joined in, begging for her new name. Dina was still feeling aggrieved with what had just happened. Realising her father's followers would now become hers, she realised that she had the strength to carry on, and raised herself to full height and shouted out her new name. Dan Tora. I am Dan Tora. I hope you enjoyed that. As I say, that is just a short story of one of the characters that is in the universe that I have created. So if you liked that, there will be more to come. There will also be more short stories and books in a totally different universe based on cats. So that's literally our four-legged feline friends. So cats it's an abbreviation and it stands for Covert Anti-Terror Squad. And the next short story that I will be reading will very well be from the Cats universe. I'm also putting together videos that will tell the story in the Prycon world in a different format. It won't just be stories. I'm hoping to do that in a different way, but I'm not going to give away too much just yet, as I'd like that to be a surprise for when it happens. Coming up, the next videos that I will be doing will be covering Captain Marvel from the DCMU, and I'll also be chatting to a friend about Star Wars. So if you like what you've heard, if you like some of the stories if you like that short story, there is more to come, please subscribe and hit that like button. And if you didn't like it, if you feel you've wasted the last 15-16 minutes of your life, sorry, but hopefully I'll see you very soon, and enjoy World Book Day. Cheers, bye.